and welcome to another episode of Expressions of Podcast. I am super excited today because I have a very special guest on today. His name is David Kohn, also the owner and founder of SixSox Silver, as well as a photographer, videographer, and content creator for his small business. So super excited to get into the conversation with him today. How are you doing, David?
I'm doing amazing. I'm excited to do this. I apologize to anybody for my little hiccups here and there that I may experience, but it's my first podcast. I'm excited to do it. I'm really eager to talk about freelance photo and video. This is something that I don't get to talk about too much anymore. I've moved kind of in the world of e-commerce, and you have to wear all the hats, but my niche will always be photo and video. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. It's awesome. How about you, Brian? How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm excited. There's been all kinds of crazy stuff. Aurora, we had some news today that was pretty bad. And, there's a lot of things that go on in our world that draw our stresses out onto the surface. And I look forward to doing these podcasts because it's not just a good conversation to have with David and find out what you're up to, but it's also a good place for us creative people to, vent a little bit and just kind of have a good conversation with somebody that we may not normally talk to and just really, I don't know. I think that I really need that today. So I'm very appreciative to be here. David, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight. Don't worry about any hiccups, man. If there's going to be any hiccups, it's going to be probably myself or Sean. So that's usually what happens. So it's all good. It's all good on you, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, Brian, that these podcasts are really good for, mental health and, just like a really awesome creative outlet for us. So it's definitely a good pickup in energy and, just emotions in general. How about you, Sean? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. Staying out of jail. Was number one on the list for this week, and so far I've been doing pretty good at that. Also, I got a gift, and I wanted to show it to Brian because I've been dying to show it to him, and I just never had the time to. But awesome. My roommate ended up giving me a new mug.
Oh, no way. No way.
Which just so happens to.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm so glad you didn't have liquid in it right now when you showed me that.
Well, yeah, no, I'm saving it for the right coffee. I'm waiting for the right
That is
moment.
So good. And I don't have mine with me today. I'm sorry. I should have had mine with me right now.
We'll coordinate it for next episode. We'll have
it's a thing now. It's a thing.
This is an inside joke from a previous episode.
Yeah, I've got a mug as well. For those who are listening to this on Spotify or whatever, Sean just showed me a mug that he got. What does it say on the front of it? Have a nice day?
Yeah, it says have a nice day.
Have a nice day. And then you lift it up and it has like a bone hand giving the finger.
It's actually funny because I literally have the exact same decal on my doors now. The exact same thing.
Then it's very fitting.
Cool.
Just don't drink that. Yeah,
you should.
Well, David, I had a mug that was given to me by my former manager when I became assistant manager of our store at the time. And it was basically, you can tell by the look on my face that I'm ignoring you or something like that. And then you lift it up and it's somebody giving the middle finger. So it's just, it's now a thing of ours. When we're drinking and somebody says something that we're pissed about it, we'll just kind of do one of those.
It's a good tactic.
Or something. It's different. Sorry. Go ahead, Aurora.
No.
Now.
That's okay.
See, David, I'm already hiccuping. There we go.
It's not a hiccup. It's a thing.
It's more like goofing off.
Just being a goof. Yeah.
So I'm super excited to get into this conversation with David today. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is you do and kind of how you got into the world of e-commerce, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. So it started, my background, like I said, is in photo and video, and it all kind of started that way. So out of school, I started doing odd jobs, like freelance work. I had not the best camera setup, but I made do. I was doing the occasional real estate photo shoot. I was doing headshots for people really frequently. And then I actually ended up getting an opportunity through a friend who was in the e-commerce world himself. him and his brother had started a company. They were a sock company, and they were kind enough to give me an opportunity. They wanted to source a local photographer and give someone young the opportunity to kind of grow with the business. And so I was doing photography for them. They were, I know it sounds crazy, but there was like a big hype train around socks. There was a really big fad around novelty stuff. So people still wear them, but there was a period of time where socks became like the new tie, where guys were wearing like French fry socks on Fridays, and that they were riding that wave. They were doing really well, and so I started doing photography for them. It was me and a friend of mine. We would just go out occasionally, a couple times a week, and their new inventory, which they were bringing in very frequently, we would just snap some photos, send them over, and that's how it went. I ended up talking to my father about it, just literally like spitballing at the dinner table kind of situation. I was young. I was around 21, 22. I told him that I thought what they were doing was really cool. The e-commerce world was really intriguing. I knew nothing about it. I had just got out of film school, and I was working part-time at a camera store as well, at Henry's. And so I mentioned it to my dad. I didn't think much of it when I first said it. Really, the one thing that stuck with him, he told me, was that I said, I think I can do something unique, not necessarily better, but different, and offer some type of like different value proposition. So my dad thought about it. He's like, yeah, I mean, again, we're arrogant, we're cocky. Like, we thought we could do it better. At that time, we knew nothing about that space or even starting a new business. And so I think around a year later, my dad's employer went out of business. And so for the first time in my life, my dad wasn't working. He had always been working in retail, very long hours, very stressful. And so he came up to me one day and he said, like, do you want to start something? And I said, what do you mean start something? And he just brought up the sock thing, like out of nowhere. And this was like over a year later, actually. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, I think we can do it. And he said, I had this idea. And so we sat down, we started talking about it. And his idea was to offer a functional material. At that time, we knew nothing about the product. The space was completely new to us. And even like myself, I wasn't necessarily wearing functional clothing. I played a lot of sports, and most of the stuff I purchased because it was on sale, or like the standard clothes I wear. I wasn't like a Lululemon kind of guy. I wasn't wearing any type of tech fleece. And so we started doing a lot of research. And one of the things that we started seeing online was metals, so copper and silver. And we read an article that NASA and the US military were using something called silver yarn. And it was made by a company based in Pennsylvania. So we did a bunch of reading on it. We ended up finding the website of the company that produced the silver. It was super interesting at the time because we thought, like, smell-proof socks, is that something that can be done? The reason I'm saying smell-proof is because silver and copper, which we learned at that time, prevents the growth of bacteria. And because there's no bacteria, it prevents odor as well. So this is something that was new to us. We started looking into it more and more. We ended up finding the company. We reached out to them. We sent them an email. Looking back, it probably wasn't the most professional approach, but we ended up getting a response, which was really cool. They were very, very kind and open-minded to giving a father-son business the opportunity to use their product. And after, I don't know how long it was exactly, but it was months of going back and forth and getting to know the business owner in Pennsylvania. They ended up giving us the distribution rights to the silver. And at this point, the ball had been rolling, and we started accumulating different knowledge, and we started looking into more than just what the product would be. We started understanding the steps we needed to take for manufacturing. And then my mind, the first thing I went to was content creation, thinking, well, I was taking photos for that other sock business, but what can I do different for this one? How can I market this? And how can we make this something that is going to bring value to someone's life? And so the silver yarn was what we stuck with. And then the concept that we rolled forward with was the anti-odor properties, something that is not only hygienic, but can provide people relief in many situations, whether you're someone who works hard on your feet all day, a police officer, a firefighter, someone who works in the culinary industry, or even if you're an athlete, a student, there's so many reasons why you may be on your feet for long hours. You may be perspiring more than others.
Retail worker. Yeah.
Yeah, retail worker, exactly. And I was familiar with it myself, because at Henry's, you're on your feet for 8 hours at a time. I had worked jobs in construction, like landscaping. Also, I was doing like stuff in the film industry. So those hours can be ridiculous as well. Like 12 plus hours are like standard. And we just thought right away we had something unique. And so that's how we moved forward with it. And we just, ever since then, have been harping on the silver. I've been running all different types of advertisements, as well as like organic content. But that's basically how it started. I was doing freelance work for another sock company. We had the arrogance to think that we could do it ourselves. And that's really how it's been. We've been learning as we go. I had no base knowledge. This has all been like trial and error. So we made a lot of mistakes along the way, obviously, but it's been about 6 years now. And I can say it's been a super rewarding experience. It's also been, it's not just rewarding in the sense of like we've accomplished something, but it's the amount of knowledge that we've gained and the experience. My thought process is also I can apply it to something new in the future, maybe a more refined product. So there's a lot of reasons why I'm happy we ended up doing this. And SixSox, like I said, it's been about 6 years. So proud to say that. And I've been doing that alongside my photography and video business to pay the bills. So sorry for rambling. That was probably a long answer to a short question, but that's
awesome.
That's kind of how it started.
And, I never knew that you were doing the photography content for a different sock company first. And that's what kind of, rolled you into that idea initially. I thought that was so cool. Learning about that. I knew a little bit about your business before, obviously, because I was your manager in Thornhill. So I remember at the beginning of, well, maybe not the very beginning, but close to the beginning of your business, is when we first met. And you were talking about, changing your hours up a little bit and stuff for the business so that you could, really put a lot of effort into the business. So, I thought that was really awesome. But yeah, one of the things that I thought was pretty unique about how you're promoting it, promoting your business, is that you're using TikTok now. I saw Brian is, I believe, pulled up your website with your TikTok videos that are linked to it.
Yeah, on our website, if you scroll down, I think it's like the middle section, I do offer like an Instagram feed and a TikTok feed. It's something that I think is really big in like today's world with social media. People do want to see the behind the scenes. They want to know who's running the company, and especially as a small self-funded family business, it's great to showcase exactly how things go. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I've been running it from home for the last 6 years. Starting to get to the point where it's not exactly manageable, but for the first 5 years, I was running it from my parents' basement. And this past year, last May, I moved out, and I've been running it from the basement in the home I'm in now. And it's literally just been me, my father, and a friend of ours, the three of us, for the last 6 years. So it's,
wow.
I'd like to showcase that as much as I can. And a lot of people, when they look at our website and the photography, they just make the assumption that we have a team or we're larger than we are. But the reality is we've been self-funded. We're very, very tight knit, and not just tight knit, but I don't want to say stingy, but we've been very, very meticulous with our spending, and we have to be conservative in that regard because we just don't have the ability like many other large businesses. So it's been really, really cool. And for the first 4 years, I didn't showcase that at all. It was pretending that we were bigger than we were. That was, in my mind, that was how we were going to succeed. And TikTok really changed my perspective on that. I started showcasing more and more behind the scenes as soon as I jumped on TikTok.
Awesome. Yeah, people want to see that for sure. I think it's funny that you said you're tight knit, But boom, tight knit.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even catch the pun. So, accidental pun.
That's awesome.
How can you? Maybe I'm naive. How can you, in this world, with everything being so expensive and everything being so, like, I'm not just talking about your materials. I'm talking about like the internet and cell phone service and everything being so expensive. How does a company be self-funded these days? Like, what does that look like?
So I'm really happy that you asked me that. This is something that I don't get to talk about very often. My family, if I can go back to that, is middle class. Both my parents are children of immigrants and refugees. And so like they've worked their asses off their entire life. Ever since I can remember, my parents have been working super long hours and then coming home and doing the same thing at home to raise me and my brother. And I believe I'm privileged and lucky for that, to see what hard work can do, but also to have that as like a role model, both my parents. And so being self-funded when it's me, my father, and a friend of ours can be very difficult. One of the reasons why we chose Sox was because we knew that it wasn't necessarily low risk, because low risk is a relative term, and it is still very expensive to fund something like this, especially to start. It's also very daunting to face the reality where this is our life savings, and a lot of work went into saving this in order to start this business. And so it can be very scary. For us, it was a big moment to kind of just move forward with it. My parents had played it very safe their entire lives, and this was the one time, I guess, we wanted to take the risk. We believed in each other and we believed in the idea. And it was the same thing with me. I was willing to forego an income basically for many years. It was difficult. I'm 29 years old now, and I lived with my parents up until last year. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but a lot of luxuries that my friends were used to, I basically had to give up. And it was a short-term sacrifice that I made, thinking of the long term. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily paid off in terms of like financial success. We've seen growth, and the company is at a pretty good stage. But I think that being self-funded, it can seem impossible, but it's not. I think that especially with social media, it's been such a game changer for people like me. And the reason is because you can test the product and you can reach an audience for free. Obviously, you can pay for ads. That's something that we've done over the last several years, but a lot of our engagement has been organic, especially since TikTok and Instagram Reels became a thing. And if you're really, really dedicated to your craft and you want to study the algorithms and what's going to work and what's not, these are things that are attainable, and you don't necessarily have to have deep pockets to launch a business. And I've had friends that I've met along the way, friends who have like from the past who've started their own e-commerce businesses, and some of them have even started their business for next to nothing. And it's because they're able to test a product in theory with an audience on social media. And if they see engagement, if they see positive feedback or a demand for something, then they move forward with the investment. And so the product that they're releasing, they essentially know it's going to sell. And so the
a lot
risk
less waste
becomes,
yeah,
exactly. And so with us, we have that luxury now with social media, but it was also taking the leap of faith. And when I said like tight knit and conservative, we've really been that way. Like, we're so dialed in with everything, whether it's our ad spend, when we are spending. A lot of companies will just pump ads without any regard for what they're spending, in hopes of just driving traffic to the website, gaining email signups and phone numbers, and they consider that growth. Whereas for a small business that's self-funded, growth can look a lot different. Growth needs to be profitable. And so that's something that we've been battling for many years now. It's huge concern, and it's a hurdle that we have to get past constantly. When we're running ads or when we're doing anything, we have to see immediately that it is profitable. And so over the years, through trial and error, through adjusting prices, and through playing with different platforms like Google and Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, seeing what works and what doesn't, I'm watching over our ads constantly. When we order new products, when we really do anything from ordering poly mailers to thank you cards, like every dollar we try to account for. I'm not a math guy. I'm actually quite terrible. So I give all the credit to my dad and my partner, William. They've done an amazing job with that. But I think just what it means to be self-funded, especially in today's day and age when you're competing with big box stores and the large brands, it just basically means going at it with a different approach. You don't necessarily need to see quick growth. You don't necessarily need to see impressive numbers. You need to make sure that the growth you're seeing is profitable and will, over time, turn into something. And so, although we haven't seen like exponential growth, we haven't seen anything remarkable, we're not going to be the brand that goes on Dragon's Den and wows the Dragons with a phenomenal number. We are a brand that is profitable. We are a brand that is sustainable. We have no overhead, literally, like it's low overhead, I should say. We're in the basement, but we have no employees. And so we've been able to be profitable. We've been able to see growth. And now I believe we're at the mark where we're closing in on our first million, which is not anything crazy in the grand scheme of things when you're thinking about e-commerce over 6 years. But
Yeah.
When I really thought about it and I let that sink in, I honestly, it would be a lie to say I wasn't proud just to hear that number. It's
a milestone for sure.
It is a milestone, and I think that regardless of what happens with SixSox, regardless of if it becomes a household name, regardless of if this is something that was just like a stepping stone, I'm extremely proud of what we've done. Our customer base has been unbelievable to us. We have a super loyal following. The feedback that we get on our products has been amazing, and just the knowledge that I've accumulated over the last 6 years, I really look forward to the next chapter of my life with whatever I decide to start. I think that going into it with a much more refined approach and more experience will yield a larger result. So
absolutely. And it's interesting that you're seeing this as almost like a stepping stone by saying that, like this is something that you're passionate about and you're doing, but you also realize that this may not be the last thing you do and you're working toward what's next.
Yeah. And I don't mean it in a way where I don't have faith in SixSox, because over 6 years, when people hear a number like where we're at, they'll make the assumption that it's not necessarily going to be a success. But what's been driving us is the feedback that we get. Number one, it's amazing. I'm so like I said, I'm super proud of that. But it's also the idea that I've been able to make this a sustainable thing for myself and my family, where it doesn't require 100% of my time. I can still do other things. I can still enjoy my life. I play hockey twice a week. I'm able to hang out with my friends and my girlfriend. And I'm able to do photo and video work on the side to live, basically. I pay my bills. So the fact that it's become this, I don't want to say passive, because it does still require, I would say, probably 70% of my time. I'm doing it on my own. And I think that it's pretty cool that even if it's not this massive company, if I can make this something that gives me stability and freedom, gives my parents the ability to retire at some point and have a stable income. Like I said, it doesn't need to be anything crazy. I've never been in it for the money. I think that the greatest thing about this company and the greatest thing about taking this risk was just the fact that I have the freedom now to do what I want and be my own boss and work with my dad, which is really cool.
I always break it down to a couple things. Like I do day tripper photo, and it's maybe not as consistent as I'd like it to be, but the sense of pride and the feeling of joy when somebody books a workshop and we're done and they feel great because of it. I mean, success is relative, is really what I'm getting at.
It's true.
And for you to say that, you're not in it for the money, I know you have to have the money. I get that, but it's not all about the money, and it's about the whole big picture of what you're doing. And I love it. The product is really cool. I was looking through the website, and I mean, it's not just socks, it's also masks and other things that you guys are doing. So creativity wise, are you involved in planning these new things? Aurora, I think you had something to say too.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away from where Aurora might have gone, but that's something I was asking too. Like, are you involved in the planning of building all the different materials and different products as well?
Yeah. And
well, I guess you would have to be, it's your business. So
yeah, but you would, like, sometimes things get delegated, and like I said, there's certain things that I stay away from, especially numbers. My dad's probably laughing listening to this, but it's when it comes to anything in regards to, like, whether it's content creation, whether it's customer service, I'm literally the person who answers the website chats. I get it to my phone. I can be like driving, and I'll pass my phone off to my girlfriend and she'll answer.
That's how it's done now.
Customer service chats. When it comes to designing the socks or dealing with the materials, these are all things that I've had to become familiar with. So getting to know our manufacturer, understanding what it takes, understanding the machinery used, like really understanding the textile industry, things that were completely foreign to me before, I've become, I don't want to say an expert in, but I've definitely become more knowledgeable in. And I guess that's the most enjoyable thing about doing this, is the knowledge you accumulate and just seeing, like, really how much goes into something that most people don't think too much about. And even me, I'm obviously, I was guilty of it. Like, socks wasn't something that I thought about. I didn't dream of starting a sock company, but when I saw the opportunity and I realized that applying yourself to something like this and really trying to create something unique, when I saw exactly how much goes on behind the scenes, it just became more and more intriguing. And it's like, it's weird to say, it's kind of like a drug. And I find myself, even though I have to be my own boss and my own time manager, I'm way more engaged with this stuff than I was with anything else. And
you're passionate about it. Yeah.
I spend
level of interest.
Yeah. And I just spent like countless hours doing this stuff. It doesn't seem like work. And it sounds so cheesy to say, because everyone always says that, but it literally doesn't, because it's like a video game. You're playing a video game. And so yeah, designing the socks, really all of the niche things. Like, we get samples in, I have to go over things with a fine-tooth comb. I analyze the stitching, and I have to look into proper terminology. So when I'm dealing with our manufacturer, I can pinpoint exactly what the issue is. If I find, because it sounds ridiculous, but one of the things that I do is, because of the silver, whenever we get a new sample in, so we're doing a new style, I'll wear the sock for a prolonged period of time, usually around 7 days, and I don't take it off other than when I go to bed. So
I was going to talk about this because you had mentioned testing the product on social media and stuff like that, and I remember seeing one of your video where you wore the socks for one set of socks for 7 days. So you do that for like all the new products?
Yeah, it sounds crazy, and a lot of people are probably going to cringe when they hear this, but it is something I do. I posted it on, I think it was TikTok when I first got on the platform, and I was not what the crazy thing about TikTok is, like, it was a cell phone video, not high budget, like not what I'm used to creating. It was just super quick and honest, and it was kind of quirky, I guess, because I told people I was going to be testing the socks for 7 days, and it blew up. It did I think 1.6 million views, and wow. It was huge for the business at that time, because, like I said, we weren't running ads, and so it was just a mind-blowing experience. It showed me what was possible with social media. But yeah, it sounds crazy to say, but I wear the socks for sometimes longer than a week, and the reason is because I want to make sure that the silver they've added to the socks is sufficient. I know the silver works. I've tested it many times. The company, like I said, they're super legit, very cool. They're called Noble Biomaterials, and everything they make is like top notch. They've been supplying some huge organizations, and like I said, NASA, the U.S. military. So I'll wear the socks. I just want to make sure that the percentage was met. Usually the threshold is like 8 to 10% of the sock needs to be silver. And if they smell, or if they start to smell during that time, then I know it's not working properly. And so what I make it a habit that every time we get a new sample in and we're about to place an order for a new style, regardless of what the style is, I have to wear it for the duration of the week. And sometimes it can be ridiculous because if it's an athletic sock and I have to dress up and I'm wearing athletic socks, it can look a little silly. And the opposite, right? So if I'm testing a dress sock and I'm going to the gym, I can look a little silly. But the video that I went viral with was a sock. It was blue stripes. It was a men's like dress sock, and it was pretty hilarious. I ended up wearing it for the week. I wore it everywhere. I wore it to hockey twice. I wore it to the gym. I wore it with shorts. So it's kind of funny, but that's something that
that's a win-win though. Yeah. It's quality control, but it's also good conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
How many times you talk to somebody? Oh yeah, I'm testing these socks. I've worn it for 6 days already, and smell you stick it in someone's face. I'd do stuff like
that. Yeah, so it's kind of.
I feel like Sean would too.
Honestly, I don't have laundry in my apartment right now, so I wear my socks very sparingly. So I'll wear the same pair for like 5 to 7 days before, like once I start to smell my feet like through my shoes, that's usually when I'm like, okay, I gotta fucking stop this shit.
So I think SixSox might be good for you.
I'm hoping so. I gotta try them.
That's awesome. How do you? Sorry, my first question is, where is the material made?
Good question. So the silver comes from the U.S. The company is based in Pennsylvania, and our manufacturer is in Taiwan. So that was another thing for us was early on, like obviously finding manufacturers. I knew nothing about that. Neither did my father. Luckily for us, our partner did, and he had spent a portion of his life in the retail industry working in sourcing. So he flew around the world, mostly dealing with leather products, but really getting to understand how to work with manufacturers, how to communicate with them. And when it came to finding a manufacturer, my first thought was I want to manufacture in Canada. I want to do everything locally. I was young, naive, and I quickly realized that wasn't necessarily an option for us. It was an option for sure, but it would have been a very expensive one. And more often than not, I got not laughed out of the room, but laughed off the phone. We didn't have the ability to manufacture locally, whether it was in Canada or the States, and simply because we're competing with such large retailers, people who are placing huge orders where the minimums are in the thousands. And for a small self-funded business, when you want to start a company and offer more than one design, it's literally impossible. We did a lot of research in terms of where we wanted to go. Many companies, as you know, opt for China. And we were just in search of two things, really, the best quality, but also the ethical side of things as well. We wanted to make sure that everything was up to North American standard. And so we learned that there's something called RAP certification. It's WRAAP, I believe. And then we found a manufacturer in Taiwan. Our partner flew over there. I'm pretty jealous. I've been to Taiwan for a layover, but I still haven't been to our facility where we manufacture. But they were really good to us, and they were very lenient with us when we first started as well, because like I said, minimum order quantity can be a super scary thing. That just, when you find out what MOQ means when you start a business and you realize like, oh wow, if I want to offer 3 colorways and the minimum is 600 per style, like it can be really crazy. So we got very lucky. We found a good manufacturer. We've been with them since, and it's just been we've essentially been very close contact. So they might hate us for it. We go back and forth quite a bit. When I get those samples and I do those 7-day tests and I analyze the stitching and do all those things, it is very common for me to, or my father or partner, to send them back, send them a ton of notes for adjustments in terms of sizing or stitching. And so we built a relationship with them, and that's basically how the manufacturing side is done. The socks are all made in Taiwan, though.
Awesome.
I have lots of questions, but I don't want to talk over everybody. Aurora, if you had other things you wanted to ask.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Well, I mean, my first one to get back into was the family dynamic, because, I mean, you must really like your dad. Because to be able to work that close with family, I mean, we talk about how we do this kind of thing to help our mental health. If I love my dad, don't get me wrong, but if I had to work with him on a project like this, I don't think it would last. So is it a special relationship you have with your dad? Or is he just really understanding and you guys just have good communication, or is it respect? Like, explain that situation.
So it's a number of things. First of all, I'll say that my dad is the most patient person that I've ever known. Very forgiving. I consider myself to be patient, but I can be temperamental at times. I can get flustered and frustrated. I've been known to smack a keyboard here and there. And so it's, I would think that the stability comes from him. Our partner is a good friend, also very patient, kind individual. And so working with him has been a pleasure. But obviously, disagreements and frustration, they can get the best of you. At times, it's been difficult, but very little. And like I said, my dad is kind of the glue that holds everything together. And it was hard. I'm not going to lie, because for the first 5 years of the business, it was all under one roof. So my dad, who had, like I said, lost his job, was also working from home with me. And I was relegated to my bedroom, really. I had the same desk that I'm sitting at now. And I was in there for 5 years. That's what my life was. It was my bedroom and my basement. And my dad has a small office in the house, and that can be difficult. It can create tension, but I don't know. I think that overall, the fact that I get to work with my dad in this capacity is a blessing. I'm very lucky for it, and I've learned a lot from him. Yeah, it's been
That's
good.
awesome.
I really don't have any complaints. I know it can, depending on who you work with. I think that's something that you have to consider first and foremost, is just before starting a business with somebody or before getting involved, just, do you mesh? Like, are things, do your personalities kind of like benefit each other? So that's something that the dynamic that we have, I think.
I guess you would know that about your own dad by the time you get
Yeah.
into a business. So it's not like you'd
Yeah.
learn new things, I guess. Well, maybe you would, but not the really important things.
You know what, though? It's funny because, like, really before this, like, I didn't know him in that capacity. I saw, like, the work ethic from both of my parents. I was well aware of, and I know their personalities, but never really had the ability to look at either of my parents as a peer in the regard of like business. And so I guess that was unique. It was different. I had to get used to that. And I think maybe that was like something, it didn't seem like he had any type of learning curve to it. Like, he treated me with respect and like an adult from the beginning. So I think that also made things a lot smoother.
Yeah,
if
really lucky.
someone is being my dad, like having the ability to kind of override me on things and then not doing that all the time, I guess that says a lot.
Yeah,
very cool.
For sure. I mean, that's really great. You have that relationship with your dad, and It works so well in business with you guys together. And yeah,
It's pretty much
awesome.
essential at that point, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And without that, SixSox would have probably not lasted the 5 years, right? So
6 years.
No,
I mean, the 5 years while you were living together.
yeah, and I mean, giving perspective as well, and I'll give credit to William and my father when it comes to measuring success. You guys can speak to this as well, I'm sure, especially with our generation. It's kind of like with social media and the ability to constantly see what your peers are doing, people you know, other people in the business, other entrepreneurs, you're constantly comparing yourselves to them. And especially when you're super aware of what the market looks like and the new innovators, what they're doing, and seeing the numbers and the milestones and everything that they're accomplishing. Those are the things that people post, right? So those are the things that you see and you become fixated on those. And so it's really easy to lose sight of your accomplishments. And it's really easy to be down, like get down on yourself and think like, wow, what I did in 6 years, they did in the first 6 months. But as you said earlier, Brian, these things are relative. Success is relative, and money isn't necessarily an indicator of success anyways. So my dad and William have been reminding me of that for the last 6 years. When I tell them that we need to ramp things up or we need to reevaluate if the business is worth continuing to put this amount of time into, they're the first ones to tell me and like sit me down and say, like, look at what we've accomplished, line them up, whether it's the features that we've had on TV, the several viral videos, the celebrities and athletes and all these really cool people who have endorsed us. And then most importantly, they point me to the reviews and the emails that we get constantly, the customer service chats that we always get. We've built a following where we're very in touch with all these people. And I've gotten to know many, many people. And it sounds ridiculous to say because I don't know exactly how many orders. I want to say probably 15 to 16,000 orders have come in over the last 6 years. I recognize almost all of the names, and so did my dad, because it's like, obviously first-time customers, that's a different story, but we know when we get one, we have regulars, we have people where I've been to their homes, and it sounds ridiculous, but that's also another thing that I've been very adamant on continuing is I visit my customers. I do a lot of hand deliveries. And so these little things, these little reminders that I'm constantly given and forced to look at, that's been the biggest thing. And I think that having that perspective from them is actually what's kept the business together, because I don't know where I would be otherwise. I don't know if I didn't have that type of guidance, would I be doing more freelance work? Would I have started something else and abandoned something? I mean, there's a famous picture. I don't think that I'd be able to pull it up right now, but there's a picture of it's a guy in like a mine with a pickaxe, and he's hitting the rocks in the top photo, and you can just see maybe like a foot away is this like huge mine of diamonds. And in the second photo, he's pictured walking away with the axe over his shoulder, and just kind of like to symbolize that he's given up right before things were going to like yield like a crazy result for him. So I look at it that way, and I think that it's a matter of time before we get our like big break, I guess you would say. Nice. So
what does that big break look like to you? Somebody coming along, a big company, and buying it?
Also a good question. We had, for the first time ever, which I think probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had, was I had an individual. I know it seems ridiculous to say, but there are a lot of sock companies out there. A much larger sock company with a very, very cool young entrepreneur who's seen much success around the same, I would say he started around the same time as us. They're based in Vancouver. I had an inquiry to actually purchase SixSox, which was super flattering. And that's one of the major milestones of the business so far, I think, is having someone reach out and ask. It just tells me like, okay, we're doing something right.
They see the value in it too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I guess to speak to like what you said, it's, I don't know. I've never really had a vision for where this is going to go. My goals have always been to retire my parents, and then to achieve some type of freedom, which is just basically means to continue being my own boss and to have the ability to travel, which is a huge passion of mine, to continue taking photos and videos and just
live life in a positive way.
Yeah, just having fun. So
cool.
I don't necessarily have a vision for where it's going to go, but
I think that's a safer way to be.
High hopes. Yeah.
Start getting those visions and they don't happen, then you're bringing yourself down. So you just riding it. Love it.
Yeah. But I also, sorry to keep ranting, but like one of the weird things, I guess, that I've learned, I don't know if it's weird, but expectations kind of change as you do these things more and more. And the further I got into the business, the more I became independent financially, and the more I became aware of my surroundings, I realized that I don't know. I don't think that it necessarily matters, like, especially if you're thinking of it the same way I am. It doesn't matter where you're going. Every step you take, you're moving in a direction, and that direction you're constantly taking these steps. You're going to end up somewhere. You may not know where it is right now, but that's exactly how the business has been. That's what we've done for the last 6 years, is we've just constantly taking another step. And I think that a lot of people can get discouraged really quickly. This, just like what you said, like they have this vision, and if they're not at that milestone by 6 months or a year or 2 years, they think that it's not worth pursuing. And I've had many, many people tell me that I should move on, and that this isn't necessarily my golden ticket. But I don't look at it that way. I just look at it like I'm going to keep taking strides because I have the ability to do it. And most importantly, I enjoy it. And I don't really care where I end up. I just know that 5 years from now, I'll be somewhere else because I'm continuously taking those steps.
Sure. But you're taking smart steps too. Like you're evaluating the market. You're making changes when you have to. You're making smart steps.
Yeah.
It's not just blind steps. Yeah.
You can tell by the way you talk about your business and the product that you really care about it. You all really care about it because you want it to not only succeed in profitability, but you also want it to just be a good product for your customers. And I think that's really amazing because there's so many brands out there and they just put out a product, they rush it out, whatever, and it's faulty or defective or not quite up to the standards of, what the expectation is.
It smells in 2 days. That's a fail.
No, but honestly, Aurora, that's it. That resonates with me more than anything else, and it's because I quickly realized, and obviously going into it as like I think I was 22 when we first started working on this stuff. Your intentions are not that my intentions were different, but my understanding of it was different. What it meant to be a business owner and what it meant to be successful. I realized really fast that if you believe in what you're doing, and if you're trying to create something of value, if you're trying to create a product, if you're selling a product, and your goal is to create something that enhances somebody's life in some way, and that's your focus, and you actually believe that that's what you're doing, that's what your intentions are, that's going to make you successful. That's the most important thing, because if you're starting a business with financial, like the only thing on your mind is financial success, and you're so focused on the money, you're ignoring everything else. And I guess something that's very commonly talked about in the industry is a lot of brands will focus on what's called the company journey, which is, look at us, this is what we're doing, this is our milestone, this is where we're at now, and then this is the story of our brand, this is the story of our founders. So that's the company journey. But what's going to make your brand successful is if you focus on the customer journey. And the customer journey is their experience with your brand. Why is your product good for them? How is it going to change their life? Is it going to enhance their life? What is their relationship to the product and the brand? And I've become fixated on that because I've realized that really the recipe for success is genuinely caring what you're putting out there, because I'm sure you can, like, there are swindlers out there, there are snake oil salesmen, and you can do that, but it's never going to yield long-term success. It's never going to be something that you'll, at the end of the day, be proud of. It'll never be something that lasts. And so to build a lasting impression and to build something that I'm proud of and my father's proud of and my partner's proud of, we've just been very focused on how to make the customer experience better and really listening to them. And so that's, I guess, to speak to what you said, that's where I pay most of my attention, and that's what I'm most passionate about. Is I never want to lose sight of that, because it's easy to lose sight of that, to want to make changes because it'll make the product more profitable, to want to make cuts here and there, to be stingy when you think it's going to help. But the reality is those little things, they add up, and people see them. People can see right through you if you're trying to pull the rug out from under them. They know. And even if they don't know at first, they'll find out.
Yeah, just don't lay off a third or half of your staff, because that would suck.
Yeah.
You're not going to get far. I love focus on the customer journey. Aurora, we were talking about ideas for like promoting Henry's and stuff like that over the past. And I always talk about the history and how it's Canadian, this and that. When really it's about the customer journey, and that's really what should be focused on. And all the generations of people that have dealt with Henry's over the years, would be interesting to see that as an ad rather than.
And
I love that philosophy
too. Like all the free, applying this to our work, all the free workshops we offer, and the events and photo walks and stuff like that. That's really, David actually a couple times went on photo walks with me when I was in the Thornhill store, and the customers that went out to those events, like, were just so happy that they got something. It was totally free. And the whole idea of the walk is to, speak to a particular topic like macro photography or landscape or wildlife or whatever it may be, and have products that are good for those things, so that the customer can try it out. But, having that experience, something unique that, another place would not be able to do, is really what
bring them back. Yeah.
Sets a brand apart. For sure. So absolutely.
Sean, we got to get you some of these socks.
Yeah.
I think I need them right now. Actually, I took one of my socks off because they were in very sweaty boots all day.
Did it run away? Did it skitter across the floor and disappear?
Are they standing up on their own?
I'm about to run away in my room. I need like some sort of proper ventilation in this place. It's kind of bad. Like if I somehow pass out and die, neither of you guys know where I live, so I'm pretty much kaput anyways.
Oh no. David, there's a good advertising campaign. It's a lot cheaper than new ventilating systems. Just get these socks. You don't have to worry about new ventilating systems. Actually, I was thinking another thing. Your overhead is actually underfoot.
It's true. I should be using that. I've been making videos saying, talking about the low overhead, and then filming literally like the low ceilings in my basement, but that's better.
Your overhead is underfoot. There you go.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Actually, no, I have a quick question, actually.
Sure.
So I don't really know how to word this. I was thinking about it the whole fucking time, and I can't figure it out for the life of me. So running this business, and obviously your business on the side, I'm assuming judging by how much you talk about your photography and your videography, does running these businesses kind of deter you from your like creativity, like in order to spark a new idea for like a photo you want to take or a video you want to take or whatever? Like, is there anything about running these businesses and doing as much work as you do that kind of, kills the creative vibes a little bit?
Yes. So definitely one of the, the sad truth is that when you're doing, like when it comes to photo and video, the more you do it for work, the less you're likely to do it for pleasure. And I used to love travel photography in particular. It was something that really brought joy to my life. And like I was always looking for the next adventure. And the idea behind it was, with a camera in my hand, I'm more likely to climb that extra 100 feet, or I'm more likely to put myself in an uncomfortable situation because the end goal is I'm going to get that photo, or there might be a photo over that ridge. And so I spent many years when I was younger doing that. And the more I started doing it for work, the less I started doing it for pleasure. It can be hard because I just, the free time that I have, it's like, do I want to spend it with electronics? I spend so much time, an unhealthy amount of time on social media with the business, occasionally on my own profile. I also, when it comes to the freelance work, I do a lot of real estate stuff, which honestly I love. It's pretty awesome. I get to be alone a lot of the time. I work with some really cool people currently, and it's very peaceful to walk into a property and just have a few hours by yourself and shoot, whether you listen to a podcast or put some music on. It's nice, but I'm just less likely to take my camera with me now. And I try to force myself. So I guess I go back and forth on this stuff. I went this past winter, I took a short trip to Whistler to do some snowboarding. And I told myself I was going to do a really cool edit. I was going to bring my drone and GoPro and all that good stuff, and ended up not doing that. I did enjoy the trip. Like, it was a phenomenal experience, but I probably should have created content because, like I said, I think it just forces me to do a little bit more. And the last time I took a camera with me for pleasure, I think it was a couple of years ago. I don't remember where I went. I think I went to maybe Thailand, and I definitely spent a lot of time taking photos and videos there. And I can say honestly, when you get past that hurdle, which is like just taking it out of the backpack or just bringing it with you in the first place, it's so enjoyable. You just go right back to how it used to be, where I loved doing it, and it's really just forcing yourself. I think the same thing goes with all aspects of my life. Like, I don't want to go to the gym, but I force myself, and I don't want to. I don't want to be on my computer all day, whether it's editing videos or whether it's working on SixSox stuff. A lot of the time, if it's a nice day outside, or my friends ask me to do something, there's so many temptations. But if you force yourself, and the good things happen. So I guess that was a long answer again to a short question, but I do find myself doing less creative stuff for fun because I'm forced to be creative for work. And I also don't want to take away too much from that, because the reality is I do enjoy the work that I do. So I guess I do get some fulfillment out of being creative, because when I put together a cool ad campaign, I send a lot of like funny, quirky emails to kind of invoke a reaction from our audience. Whenever I can do things like that and I see some type of, I don't know, not a reward, but when I see the result of that, it does bring me a lot of joy. So whether it's creating an ad for the business on social media, or putting together like a really cool sizzle reel for a client and having them freak out, I still get some joy of the creative process.
Yeah, I see. I feel you, because it's gonna make me sound like I'm fucking 60 years old, but I've been skateboarding for just over 20 years, and I'm probably the same age as you, I guess. 94, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So we're the same age, basically. I'm going to be
Nice.
29 this year. So skateboarding for just over 20 years. And I remember I got sponsored by a local company out of Uxbridge, just a couple of buddies of mine, and they had this grip tape company, and it was constant like going to contests and trying to put together like full street parts and making sure I'm at skate parks and trying to, you know, represent the brand and all this other stuff. So doing that kind of like competitively and like really trying to take it seriously was it really kind of took away from the fun of, you know, tossing myself like a rag doll down a set of stairs for shits and giggles. Right. So I took a nice brief hiatus, probably about a year and a half, almost 2 years away from skateboarding to focus on work and, you know, my car and another podcast I do outside of Expressions. And getting back into it recently, it's like I've figured out, like, you know what, I just like, you know, fucking around with my friends, right? Like I go and I have fun. I don't beat the piss out of myself like I used to anymore. And I find that it's more enjoyable when you take away the competitive aspect from it. So I feel exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And I'll shout out two people here that also, for some reason, I don't know what it is about skateboarding, but it kind of skateboarding and just like content creator, they just go hand in hand. Like a lot of the people that I know, like that I grew up with, the ones that skateboarded were they just became like photographers and video people or somewhere doing something creative. And I don't know what it is, but something about skaters, it's just, you know, I guess it invokes that out of you. And two people in particular that I want to mention. I have a friend named Mitch and another friend named Daniel. Mitch is a very talented photographer and editor, and he creates like these really cool pieces of artwork with a mixture of like street photography and like insane Photoshop skill. He's been doing it for so many years, and he posts on his Instagram regularly for nobody. He literally is just like, he's never cared about having an audience. I don't think he's ever really cared about what people thought, but he's been able to continuously find joy in doing that in the creative process. And he's purposely stayed away from work in that specific niche because he thinks that if he were to do that, then the passion for like one of his favorite things, which is street photography and editing, it's going to fizzle out. And you know what, to give him credit, he's probably right, but that's a really cool creator. If you want to look him up, it's at MTSHLL, and really cool stuff on Instagram. And then the other guy that has been very like inspiring to watch is his name is Daniel Schiffer. He was actually, Aurora knows, he's a regular client at our Henry's Thornhill location. And I got to know him that way, actually, become friends with him over the years, which is pretty cool. And I've been able to see him grow his YouTube channel from like 16,000 subs when I first met him to, I think he's at like 2.25 million now, which is really cool. He's like, I think he idolized Peter McKinnon, and now he's basically become the next Peter McKinnon. And he was able to do exactly what I thought was impossible, which is create content for fun that like seemingly nobody was watching at first, and just continuously create that content that he enjoyed doing for no money, just because he wanted to do it. And he turned the passion into a business. And I think he's like, I've spoken to him. I know he's had different thoughts, and you can see it on his YouTube channel. He talks about it pretty openly, why he stopped creating as frequently. But I think that he's been able to find the perfect balance between the fun and the creativity and then turning it into a viable business. And he's stayed true to what he's been doing since the beginning, which is just like really epic B-roll. So that's a good example of what's possible if you can find that harmony between for fun and for business.
Yeah.
Cool. Peter McKinnon.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Is he shop at your location still?
I'm friends with Peter.
Oh, nice.
Well, almost past tense, I guess you could say. He worked at our store.
No, I know. I was aware he worked at the Henry's Newmarket. I know that he goes in there from time to time now.
Not anymore.
Not
Not
anymore.
really.
Okay.
No. He's an interesting guy. He's one of those guys that has the hustle and the talent. You know what I mean? There's very few
Yeah.
people I know that have the hustle and the talent. You can have the talent, you can have the
True.
hustle, but when you got both and you have support behind you, you become Peter McKinnon. And that's, I mean, I've known a lot of talented people. I consider our friend Navi Noom to be equally as talented as Peter, but she just didn't have the hustle, I guess you could say, to put herself in that position. That's my opinion. I love Navi. I think she's incredible, and she's perfectly happy doing what she's doing. I'm not trying to say she's not, but yeah, you have to have that hustle, and you've got the hustle, obviously. I mean, you've dedicated your life to it. It reminds me of a quote too. I don't remember who it was that said it. Some comedian I think I watched say. Basically, he says all these people that talk about how when you're young, you're supposed to party and enjoy life and do all the things that you're supposed to do while you still can, and you don't have the responsibilities and so on. But he says that's all bullshit, because when you're young is when you're supposed to be working your ass off so that you can save the money and you can prepare yourself for a future that you can retire to normal age and actually enjoy life while you still can. I like that philosophy. I've pretty much done that without making the money part, but you know, it is what it is. But I think that's where you're at as well. I mean, you've really sacrificed a lot of things to put this in a strong position so that it may become something that you retire off of, or it may become something that, you know, you retire your parents off of, like you say. I think that's a bigger goal. I can understand why too. They've worked their asses off, and I respect that. So, and I got to give your parents a lot of credit. You probably don't get this from a lot of people, but being a child of a situation where the parents couldn't necessarily give the support that they maybe wanted to, it makes a huge difference in someone's life when you have parents that are supportive. And for you to be able to work with your father, and you haven't talked about your mom that much. I don't know if she's just helping out with it as well.
She's been like equally amazing. I think that early on, my mom was worried for me, like in the same regard that any mom would be worried for her child, where I told her I'm not doing the 9 to 5 anymore. I'm like quitting the job, and I'm going to spend most of my time working for free. It can be a scary thing for any parent to hear. But my dad, I guess, working on it with me, he was more inclined to like be okay with it, whereas my mom was rightfully so very nervous for me. But I think over the years, she's been able to better understand that it is possible and that I am truly willing to put in the work. And so yeah, I may not be seeing like the immediate success as you mentioned, but I am setting myself up for future success, and I owe that to both my parents, because I think I definitely got good and bad traits, as everyone does, but seeing how they were, and the work ethic, the discipline, and the respect that they instilled, I think that I mean, it's instrumental, because you can't, I don't know. I have to give them all the credit really when it comes to that.
That's awesome. Well, I'm sure they love doing it for you, so I don't think that's hurting them to do it. Do we have any other questions, or should we get to the?
Yeah, I was just about to ask. Does anybody have any other questions before we move on to the last three?
No, I'm good.
Good. Okay. All right. So we have three questions that we always ask at the end of every podcast. So the first question is, what's your jam? What's your favorite song, or that song that's going to get you pumped up and excited, and, you know, you just always love listening to, you can't turn it off. You have to listen to it all the way through when you stop your car in your driveway. What's that song?
It's a good question. I thought I always blank whenever the pressure's on, but
Yeah.
as you were saying it, I was already thinking. I definitely have two. The first one is Cage the Elephant. The song is called Shake Me Down. It's one of my favorite songs. I got a tattoo for that, which was, they're just, the band themselves I love. The name Cage the Elephant I just thought was like a super cool. I don't know if it's like a metaphor for something or what, but I would say that song. and I've been really, really into. There's a Canadian artist. He's from Saskatchewan, and his name is Coulter Wall. And I found him by accident on Spotify, like I don't know, a couple of years ago when I used like the My Radio feature, and I think I love all of his music. Super, super talented guy, but I think Sleeping on the Blacktop or Kate McCannon, one of those two.
Okay.
I love it when people have more than one song. It makes me feel so good.
Yeah, it's hard to narrow it down.
It's tough, man. It's a tough question to answer. I remember when I was a guest on the podcast for the first time here, and before I became a permanent host, I was so stumped. I was like, man, what the fuck song am I gonna pick? Damn it!
It was always so easy for me. I'm very narrow with my musical taste. It's something by Tool.
I knew it. I knew you were gonna say that.
I mean, I have 2 or 3 that I could call it any day. So anyway.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love Cage the Elephant. So
yeah, awesome.
I'm pretty sure I know what song you're talking about. It's been a while, but yeah, awesome, very unique sound.
Yeah, there's
I like that
there's a line in that song that I guess that's what like the first time I heard the song, I saw the music video. So I guess that's left a huge impression on me just because like the video was really epic too. It's kind of like it's this short sequence of, I guess this man's life. And I don't want to spoil it. I'll let you guys watch it if you want, but there's a line and it's even on a cloudy day, I'll keep my eyes fixed on the sun. And I thought that was, I don't know, like there's a lot of really great lines in that song, but that one in particular stood out to me because like I said earlier, it's so easy to get down on yourself. It's so easy to compare yourself to somebody else. It's so easy to fall into all of these traps, and I fall into them all the time. I'm not past any of those things, but just remembering that and knowing that, yeah, bad day doesn't mean a bad week, or that there is like, you may not think you are where you need to be, but you are. And there's always something to be proud of. There's always something to hold up to that, that high standard. And I don't know, that line really just stuck with me. So that's probably cool. My favorite song.
That's awesome. Okay. Moving on to the next question. What's your tool of the trade? That thing that you need. Well, it could be a physical thing, like an actual tool or whatever it may be, but it could also be like a concept or a state of mind or whatever it may be. What is that tool that you need to get through your day, to be productive, to be creative? What is that tool?
That's it's a good question. I mean, I think that for all content creators, all of us here, we can attest to this. Like this is, if you can find out how to tap into that creative space at will, that's like the greatest gift that anyone could ever ask for. Like everyone else, I do my best to tap into that when I can. I think that, I don't know that a tool for me would be physical. I think I've been trying to focus more on how to put myself in, I don't know if you would call it like a flow state or a creative headspace. I take some time away from the craziness of like my phone, which can be super addicting, or my computer. And I just, I live near a forest, which is nice. I'll force myself to stand outside every morning. So I have, there's 2 dogs here, and every morning I take them out. And I think having that like break in the morning when they're doing their business and I'm just standing out there, I tend to look up, try to get as much like natural light into my eyes. Shout out to Andrew Huberman. That's where I heard that. But I think that taking the moment to kind of decompress before the day starts, and for me, it's being in nature. So I guess the tool would be not becoming detached from what it means to be human. And for me, that means like being outside and being in touch with Whether it's a cold day or a hot day or the sound of birds chirping or whatever, I try to prioritize having at least a moment of that every day.
That's deep.
We all spend so much time on our phones and our computers, and like, yeah, when you're on TikTok or Instagram scrolling, you hear all these gurus telling you to do exactly that, like take some time away. But like, I've seen a huge difference in my own life, and I highly recommend that everyone try to do it. Is the more we become attached to technology, and uh, the more we're consumed by these like social media apps that are super addicting, TV shows, the streaming platforms, the pressure of being on your computer all day for work. The more you like get sucked into that lifestyle, the less you feel human. And I've become, I don't want to say unwell, but I've become like unbalanced, and I've had my fair share of stress and anxiety. And I find that it's exacerbated when I'm spending too much time focused on getting that project done on my computer, or interacting with people on social media, or trying to think of what our next post or caption is going to be. And when you're too fixated on that and you forget what else is out there, when you forget to like make eye contact with somebody, or you forget to go outside and breathe fresh air, it can make a really big impact. So I think everyone's aware of this, but it's something that, like, for me, it's just, I can't go without it, because everyone, I'm sure all of us here have had the days where you're so dialed in on your electronics for whatever reason, whether it's a game or work or like a creative project that you're working on for fun. Like, when you spend that day, morning to night, focused on that screen, you don't feel too good before you go to bed. So in order to keep myself like balanced and my mental health in check, I try to spend as much time in nature or outside as I can.
Yep, that's my gimmick too. Whenever, just got to get in the car and take off. Just drive to somewhere out in nature and just love it. And my wife and I pretty much do the same thing. Just get in the car and go to nature.
Amazing.
Yeah,
That's awesome. And the last question is, what would you challenge our listeners or viewers to do? We ask every guest on the show to challenge our viewers or listeners, something for them to try this week. Or continually.
No, that's it's a good question, actually. I was gonna say to get outside, but everyone knows that, everyone hears that all the time. You also hear from, I'm sure there's someone in your life or someone you've seen online telling you to spend less time on your devices. And so it's not a new thing for me to say that, but I guess I would challenge somebody to not just spend less time on their device. Like, if it means going outside and not taking your phone with you, or if it means like going into a different room and reading a book and not having your phone with you, the challenge is not necessarily not having the electronic device with you. The challenge would be being comfortable with not having it with you, because I force myself to go on these walks or get that fresh air and not take my phone. And even though I preach this stuff, I'm telling you, I feel like I'm missing something when I'm out there. I feel the urge to pull out my phone and start scrolling, because the immediate gratification of looking at trees is just not there. So it's like, I think what I'm trying to say is I would challenge the person to, first of all, leave it behind, take that step outside, but be comfortable and be satisfied when you don't have it. Try to get to that place. And some days I do, and some days I don't. If I post a really cool edit on my Instagram page, or I send an email blast to our customers that I thought was like super witty, all I want to do is just stare at my phone and see the results. I want to see, if it's Instagram, I want to see my friends liking my picture. I want to see the feedback. I want the instant gratification. And so even if I were to leave my phone inside and go for that walk, that's all I would be thinking about. And so I try to remind myself that there are things outside of this digital life that we have. And I guess I would challenge somebody to do the same thing and truly be happy reading a book or watching the birds fly by over your house, driving your car without your phone, and just enjoying like the sound of the wind and like I don't the experience of driving. And I don't know. I think that's something that I would recommend.
These are books, aren't they?
Awesome.
Yeah. Wait.
I haven't seen these in a while. I didn't even know I had these back here. I should really.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it too.
I like that idea. I should probably do that.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's a good idea.
I gotta say, the last books that I claim to have read, I listened to audio versions of the books because I couldn't be bothered to spend the time to actually sit down.
I don't have the time to do that.
Listen to it while I was
I can't
driving.
even read. I don't know what y'all are talking about. I forcibly try not to read. I mean, I have a whole collection of comic books I still have yet to go through.
But the pictures are pretty.
That's true.
Hey,
I will say this: when it comes to audiobooks, I got nothing against audiobooks. I think that especially for how busy people are, the amount of time you spend commuting in your car or whatever, I would say there's nothing wrong with an audiobook. It's just, are you going to have the temptation to pull out your phone and start doing something while it's playing, or can you be truly engaged in what the reader is saying?
It's so true, though. I mean, Aurora and I, we both have this happen all the time. We have customers coming in, bringing in their disposable film cameras to get developed. A huge thing now is disposable film cameras. And
it's crazy how popular it is.
Drives me nuts. I don't understand it. But then I'm asking my customers, like, why use this? And the best answer I ever got was, you're hanging out with your friends and you go to take a picture. So you grab your phone, you notice you've got some notifications. Next thing you know, you're down this rabbit hole of social media and hanging out with your phone rather than the people that you're with, and it detaches you from the moment. And that's when I finally realized that the world is actually starting to see that social media isn't, all it's cracked up to be. You should detach from it. And yeah, I think
it's true.
It's such a different thing being comfortable not bringing your phone with you than just not bringing your phone. That is so true. And I'm totally guilty of this. And I feel really stupid because every time I post a picture for wrestling or something like that, you're right. I will sit there waiting. Okay, who's going to be the first person to like it? I hate to admit it. I feel like I'm just a horrible person for even admitting it. And I was really thought it was really cool that you admitted it. Like, I was like, wow, it's actually, people do this. I thought it's just like an ego thing where you have to, I'm not an ego person. I don't like ego. So to think that it's an ego thing making me want to see people like my comments bothered me. It made me feel bad about myself.
You shouldn't. It's a human thing. We're social creatures, and it's completely normal to want some type of validation or credit for what you did, or it goes back to like it's just human nature, and social media exploits that. I'm not saying anything new. I'm sure like you guys have seen, like whether you've seen snippets or articles or you've seen the actual thing, like there's so many little like pieces on this, or like, I don't remember what the most recent one was called. I just had it on the tip of my tongue and I forgot, but it just shows how these algorithms understand, they play to your like tendencies, and they play to the weak parts of like our mind and our ego, and they will continue to do that because that's what's going to drive the most traffic and have people spend the most time on the platform. And we just need to understand that. And can we outsmart AI? Probably not. But at the end of the day, if you make a conscious effort to spend that time away from your devices, it'll pay off in some way.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, thank you so much for being on, David. We've gone a little bit later than we normally go on this podcast.
I'm sorry. So... I know I talk a lot.
Oh, no, not at all. I think we've all been very engaged in this conversation, and that's what I love about this podcast, is that we have such deep long conversations with lots of good advice for other people who are wanting to get into what our guests are into. So I think you've given a lot of good advice, and I truly feel that people can learn from your experiences, from what you've posted on TikTok, from what you've talked about on the show, and just like the success of your business in general. So I applaud you for that. And it's just awesome checking in with you. It's been a while since we've had a long conversation. So thanks again for coming on. Where can people follow you and SixSox and, I don't know, future endeavors that you may be on?
So I'll tell you in a second. First of all, I want to give you guys a major shout out. I think what you guys are doing here is really cool. The message is super positive, and the diverse group, and then the guests that you have, I'm sure that I'm sure it's benefiting a lot of people, just to hear different perspectives. And not that anything I said is new, but I hope that I could bring some type of insight or perspective to anyone's life. And I think what you're doing is super awesome. And it looks like to me that you're doing it not because you expect anything out of it, but because you truly enjoy it. You enjoy the process, you enjoy each other's company, and I applaud that. I think it's really, really cool. And I'm honored to be on this. This is the first podcast I've ever done.
That's cool.
I'm super proud. I'm going to tell everybody that I did this. And, I'm going to send this to everyone.
That's awesome.
So, thank you. And also a big shout out to you, Aurora. You were an amazing manager. I had a great time working with you at Henry's. Those days were, they meant a lot to me, because it was the first job I ever had that I enjoyed and I cared about, because I was going into working at a camera store, and I was working with like-minded individuals who nerded out over the same things that I did. I was able to play with literally toys all day, and it was an awesome job. I was given a good amount of freedom there, and very grateful for the experience that you provided, and thank you for staying in touch. Thank you for having me. If anybody wants to look at our business, or I guess follow me on Instagram, I don't know that would be the most entertaining follow. The business is SixSox Silver, so SixSox Silver, all one word. That's our social media handle, and it's across all platforms. And then my personal one is David Kohn, so KOHN 1, and that would be on Instagram.
Dope.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for being on, and thank you, Sean and Brian, for attending on not our regular night for this
yes, also
interview.
Thank you for that. Because it's supposed to be Monday, and I asked this to be pushed, so thank you for doing that. It means a lot.
Perfect.
It's a pleasure.
No problem.
It's raining anyways. I can't drive my car, so I had to be here.
Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. Give us a like and a follow, or whatever you do to enjoy this video, or just listen. And and have a great night.
Cool. Thanks everyone.
Peace.
And don't compare yourself to Peter McKinnon. Ooh.